Hi guys, good morning, and welcome back to another morning devotion with HEDM. This morning, my word for you is criticism, and there are three types of criticism. So there's destructive criticism, there's constructive, and there is instructive criticism. So 9 out of 10 times when people do criticism, it's normally from a negative point of view. I want to challenge you all, I want to challenge myself so that we would refocus our thought about criticism and rethink about, reanalyze the way in which we criticize, right? So as I mentioned to you before, there is three types of criticism. So with constructive criticism, what you do is you build up the individual. Destructive is one of tearing down and pulling down, and instructive is where you add on. So you just state the obvious, you just add on more load about the criticism, right? However, when we criticize, the one that we should choose is constructive criticism. We should choose to build up. We should choose not to tear down people. One of the things that I thought of while I was looking at this is that we ought to be aware. We ought to be conscious. I'm speaking to the people who's criticizing here, who does the criticism. And we all criticize at some point in time or the other. If you haven't yet, you will in this lifetime. So you have to be conscious of your criticism, be cautious, and also be purposeful, be intentional. So in being conscious, you need to be aware. In being courteous, you need to be careful. And in being intentional, what's your purpose? What's the aim? Because sometimes we do things and we just do it aimlessly, or we say things aimlessly, never really following through before and thinking of, why am I doing this? What is the reason? What is it to be accomplished when I do this? So questions you need, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. One of the things I wrote is that question your criticism in private mode. Question your criticism in private mode before you make it public. And not just private, but I wrote unbiased private mode, because we spill, and some people, you would hear people boast and say, I don't care. I criticize them and I let them know exactly what I think. Letting people know exactly what you think or what you feel about their behavior, their way of life, or their choices on its own is not good enough. You have to be careful, because the Bible speaks about that when we speak, the words is supposed to encourage. Even if you point out a fault that somebody has, or way in which they're doing, it ought to be solution based, where you point it out, but there ought to be a solution to the problem also. What is the motives of your criticism? What's the goal? What do you hope to accomplish by criticizing a person in such a manner or saying what you do? In Proverbs, it says, because there's two things. When we speak criticism, we only think about the person who's doing the criticizing, but I want to talk to the listeners, the people who is being criticized. At some point in our life, each one of us is going to get criticized. If it's not in your home, you're going to get criticized on your job, in your school, amongst your peers, by your spouse, by your children. Just know that we all actually need some type of criticism. Is necessary at some point in our lives. Yes, we may actually need to be criticized, right? Criticism is hard. Most of the time it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. But if we can learn to accept criticism, what will in turn happen is that we would grow, we would learn humility, because criticism kind of hits you to be humble and causes you to learn humility and just be better, to change for the better. When you listen and Sometimes some people, when they criticize you, it hurts immediately. A lot of time because there's some truth in it, or there is truth in it. And because there's truth in it, it hurts us because we are human. But if we take time and really think about what the person was saying, and really look at ourselves unbiasedly, what would happen is we would learn and become better and seek out to improve ourselves. Hear what Proverbs 15 and 31 to 33 says to the person who is being criticized. He says, if you listen to constructive criticism, we're not talking about destructive or instructive, constructive criticism, you will be at home among the wise. So it says that people who listen to constructive criticism, which is instruction, you will be wise, right? If you reject it, it's like discipline. Discipline is a form of criticism, but it's constructive, right? If you reject it, what would happen is you harm yourself, not the person that you reject, who's giving it or who's criticizing, who's disciplining you, right? And you'll harm yourself. But if you listen to correction, because that's criticism again, constructive, you would grow in understanding, right? Fear of the Lord teaches wisdom. Humility precedes honor. So, in other words, the fear of the Lord, it teaches wisdom. And then here comes humility. And after humility, you are honored, because when you are humbled, what happens is you learn and you grow and you become better. So I want to encourage you, right? Sometimes we need criticism. We may need criticism. When you get constructive criticism, heed to it. Don't allow your ego and your pride to rule in where you block it out and you dismiss it. Those of you who are criticizing, be mindful, be cautious. If the aim or your motive is not to build up, to restore, if that's not your aim, you ought to be quiet. Understand that the same criticism that you give, you would get it back. The way you wouldn't want somebody criticize you, don't do it to somebody else. Just be mindful, be consistently mindful of what you're saying to people and how you're saying it and what you would like for yourself, right? Remember, we have a choice. Each one of us have a choice. It's up to us to choose the type of criticism that we're going to dish out, that we're going to give. Are we going to build up? Are we going to tear down? Or are we going to add on? It's up to us. We have the power within our hands. Be intentional, be cautious, and also be conscious. Be consciously awoken that before you make your criticism public, you should really, for real, question your motives for your criticism in private, in an unbiased mode. When you are finished criticizing, you cannot retract. You can retract by saying, I take back my words, but literally you can't, because what you do, what you have already said, what you have already put in the atmosphere, the person have already received it. If I've done its damages already, and we really don't want to be, or we shouldn't be, in the business of damaging each other. What we ought to be is in the business of repairing and building. It's just like the word says, the word of God is given, and all instruction, it is given for the instructions, for reproof. That's criticism. It reproof you. So it corrects you. It points out this stuff and say, hey, listen, you're doing this wrong, but listen, this is the way to do this right. Let's do this instead, or let's do that instead. So I caution you, be careful of that. Be careful of that red tongue, that flag in your mouth. Don't be so quick to allow everything it says to be in public mode. When you go on YouTube and you go to thing, it says, it gives you the choice to upload your videos in private mode so that you can review it first before you make it public. So in case there's any errors, in case there's anything that you want to retract, the time to retract would be before you make it public. Think about what you're saying. What you say and how it affects people matters. It matters, it matters. Even if it's the right thing, it matters. So if you're going to criticize, do it correctly. Assess yourself. Do it wisely. And from here on, you cannot say that you did not know. When you're going to criticize, criticize better. Criticize better. Better in the sense of be cautious, be conscious, be intentional. That the intent must be to build up, not to break down, not to tear down, not to add on. God bless you. Have a good day. Have an awesome day. I hope you were enlightened, and I trust and I pray that you are going to evaluate your criticism, past, present, and future. God bless you. Stay tuned. Join us again. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to comment. And don't forget to share. Above all things, don't forget to be a blessing. Be an ambassador and a good representative of the God that you love and you serve. God bless. See you next devotion.